What would you do right now if a cop walked up to your window and said, "I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle"? Most people freeze, panic, and do exactly what the officer says without asking a single question. And that one moment of silence cost them everything. Hit subscribe right now because what I'm about to show you could be the difference between driving home tonight and spending the night in a holding cell. Cops are legally trained to use your silence and your cooperation against you, and I'm going to give you the 4 words that stop that entire process cold. Here's what you're about to learn. First, the exact phrase that legally forces any officer to back down from a search. Second, the body language and tone that make those words work in your favor. Third, the 2 most dangerous mistakes drivers make in the first 30 seconds of a stop. And fourth, a full walkthrough of a real traffic stop showing you exactly how to handle every moment from the second those lights hit your mirror to the second you drive away free. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos and the pattern is always the same. Drivers who know these tactics walk. Drivers who don't know them get searched, cited, and sometimes arrested, even when they did nothing wrong. This is about knowing your rights before you need them. Because when those lights come on, you won't have time to Google anything. Here's the reality. Most traffic stops are completely routine. Speeding ticket, broken taillight, registration check. You're out in 5 minutes. But here's what nobody tells you. Officers are trained during every single stop to look for reasons to extend it. They're scanning your eyes. They're watching your hands. They're listening to every word you say. And they're looking for any opening, any hesitation, any nervous response they can use to justify going further. The law gives them a very narrow window during a traffic stop. They can ask for your license, registration, and insurance. They can run your plates. They can write you a ticket or let you go. That's it. But the moment you start answering questions beyond those 3 documents, the moment you start explaining where you're going or who you were with or why you're in this neighborhood, you've just handed them the key to a whole new investigation. And here's the trick they don't want you knowing. Almost nothing they ask you after those first 30 seconds is legally required. They're asking because drivers almost always answer. And those answers almost always give officers exactly what they need to go further. Tactic number 1 is understanding and using the phrase that stops a search before it starts. Here's the reality. When a cop says, "Do you mind if I take a quick look in your car?" They're not asking because they think you'll say no. They're asking because 95% of drivers say yes. Most people have no idea that this question is optional. They think saying no makes them look guilty. They think it'll make things worse. So they say, "Sure, go ahead," and they open the door. Then the officer finds something. Maybe it's a knife in the center console. Maybe it's a pill bottle without a label. Maybe it's something completely legal that looks suspicious to that one officer on that one night. And now you're in a conversation you never needed to have. Here's exactly what you say instead. You look at the officer calmly and you say this: "Officer, I do not consent to searches." Word for word. Memorize that sentence. Not, "I'd rather you didn't." Not, I guess, but those weak answers invite negotiation. "Officer, I do not consent to searches." That sentence is this 100% legal. You cannot be arrested for saying it. You cannot be ticketed for saying it. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court every single day to suppress evidence found during unlawful searches. Bad way. The officer asks if he can look in your trunk. You say, "I don't have anything in there," and you pop it open. The officer finds a bag your friend left in there last week. You're now explaining someone else's property at midnight on the side of the road. Good way. The officer asks the same question. You say, "Officer, I do not consent to searches." The officer now has 2 choices. He can let you go, or he can call for a warrant. Without probable cause, he cannot legally search your car. Without your consent, he has no shortcut. The legal backing for this comes from Schneckloth versus Bustamante, a 1973 Supreme Court case. In plain English, the court said that consent to search is voluntary, but it only counts if you actually give it. If you say no, the search is illegal without a warrant. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. That one sentence protects your entire vehicle. Have you ever been asked this exact question during a traffic stop? Drop a comment below and tell me what you said, because I guarantee most of you said yes without even thinking about it. Tactic number 2 is answering the question, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" with the right response. This sounds like a simple question. It sounds polite. It sounds like the officer is just making conversation. It is not. When a cop asks, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" they are asking you to confess. That's it. That's the whole game. If you say, "Yeah, I was probably going a little fast," you just told an officer of the law that you were speeding on a recorded body cam. That goes straight into the report. Prosecutors love this moment. It happens on camera every single time. Listen closely because this is critical. You're not legally required to answer this question. You're required to provide your license, registration, and insurance. You're not required to explain your speed, your route, your reasoning or your awareness of any traffic laws you may or may not have broken. Here's exactly what you say. You hand over your documents and you say, "I'd prefer not to answer any questions without legal counsel present." That's it. Calm voice, no attitude, no argument. You're not being rude. You're exercising a right that the Fifth Amendment gives every single American. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection at this stage of a stop. Bad way. The officer asks if you know why he pulled you over. You say, "I might have been going a little over the limit. Sorry about that." Now the officer writes the ticket, and your verbal admission is in the report. If you fight the ticket in court, your own words are used against you. Good way. Same question. You say, "I'd prefer not to answer any questions without legal counsel." The officer writes the ticket based on what he observed. That's fine. You still get the ticket. But now you have the option to fight it without your own words working against you. This is 100% legal. Former police officers have confirmed this works and that it is within every driver's rights to say it without escalating the stop. Tactic number 3 is handling the order, to step out of the vehicle. This one trips people up more than anything else. The Supreme Court ruled in Pennsylvania versus Mims in 1977 that officers can legally order a driver to exit a vehicle during a lawful traffic stop. That part is real. You do have to get out if they ask. But here's what people miss. Getting out of the car does not mean giving up everything else. Most drivers, the second they're standing outside that car, start answering every question, start explaining everything, start trying to prove they're not a threat, and watch what happens. The officer walks you away from the car. A second officer starts walking around the vehicle. One of them smells something. And now the stop that was supposed to take 5 minutes turns into 45 minutes and a full search. Here's exactly what you say when you're asked to step out. You step out and you immediately say this: "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" 9 words. That's it. Those 9 words force the officer to make a legal decision on the spot. If you're being detained, they need reasonable suspicion to hold you. If you are not being detained, you can walk away. Most officers, when they hear those 9 words, know immediately that you understand your rights. Watch what happens when you say it calmly and clearly. The tone of the entire stop shifts. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings going back to Terry versus Ohio in 1968. In plain English, officers cannot just hold you indefinitely without a legal reason. Asking that question forces them to either provide that reason or let you go. Bad way. Officer asks you to step out. You get out. You start talking. You start explaining where you're going. You start apologizing for something you didn't even do. The officer has now gathered 15 minutes of conversation to use as justification for extending the stop. Good way. Officer asks you to step out. You step out calmly. You say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" The officer either tells you the legal reason for detention or the stop wraps up. You've just cut the stop in half. Most viewers click away before this point. If you're still here, you're already operating at a higher level than 90% of drivers on the road today. Drop a comment right now that says "still here," so I know who's serious about protecting their rights. Because this next part is where it all comes together, and it's the section that has helped my subscribers avoid searches, dismiss tickets, and walk away clean from stops that should have gone very differently. Tactic number 4 is the document handoff, and this is one nobody talks about, and it matters more than you'd think. When you hand over your license and registration, do not reach for anything without announcing it first. You say, "My license is in my wallet in my back left pocket. I'm going to reach for it now." Every single time. This is not just about safety, though it absolutely helps with that. This is about control. When you narrate your movements, you take control of the interaction. You remove the ambiguity. You give the officer no reason to escalate. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos, and the stops that go sideways almost always involve a driver who moves without explaining. The stops that stay calm almost always involve a driver who announces every single action. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection during the physical part of the stop. It is 100% legal. It costs you nothing. And it signals clearly to any officer and to any camera that you are calm, cooperative on your legal obligations, and fully aware of what you're doing. Now let me show you exactly how all 4 of these tactics work together in one real traffic stop from the moment the lights hit your mirror to the moment you drive away. You're driving home. It's late. Blue and red lights. You pull over immediately and you turn on your interior light. Good start. The officer walks up. "License and registration, please." You say, "My license is in my wallet in my back right pocket and my registration is in the glove compartment. I'm going to reach for them now." You hand them over. The officer says, "Do you know why I pulled you over tonight?" You say, "I'd prefer not to answer any questions without legal counsel present." The officer pauses. He wasn't expecting that. He runs your plates. Everything comes back clean. Then he says, Mind if I take a quick look in your vehicle? You say, "Officer, I do not consent to searches." He asks you to step out. You step out. You say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" He says, "You're not being detained." He hands back your documents. You get back in your car. You drive home. That is the whole script. That is what using your rights actually looks like in real time. No arguing, no attitude, no aggression. Just calm, clear, legally protected responses that prevent every single unnecessary escalation. Now here's the wrong version of that same stop. Same night, same officer. But this driver panics. He starts explaining himself before the officer even asks a question. He says, yeah, he might have been speeding a little. He says he's coming from a friend's place. He says he doesn't have anything in the car if they want to check. The officer hears that nervous energy. He asks to search. The driver says, sure, no problem, thinking cooperation will end things faster. The officer finds the friend's vape pen in the cup holder. Now it's a whole different night, same stop. Two completely different outcomes. The only difference is 4 tactics and the knowledge to use them. Next week, I'm dropping the video you've been asking me about for months. What to say when a cop claims he smells marijuana coming from your vehicle. That situation gets people arrested every single day, and almost no one knows the legal response that changes everything. Subscribe right now because that video drops in 3 days, and missing it could genuinely cost you your freedom in a situation that has nothing to do with anything illegal. Here's your quick recap of everything you just learned. Say, officer, I do not consent to searches anytime a search is requested. Say, I'd prefer not to answer questions without legal counsel when asked to explain yourself. Say, am I being detained or am I free to leave when you step out of the vehicle? And always announce every physical movement during your document handoff. These 4 tactics are backed by the Supreme Court, used by defense attorneys, and they are 100% your legal right to use in every single traffic stop. Hit subscribe so you're ready the moment that marijuana smell video drops. Smash the like button if this just changed the way you'll handle your next traffic stop. And drop a comment telling me which of these 4 tactics surprised you the most. I read every single one. Stay safe out there.